So joining me to talk a bit more about the logistics that are involved in the opening of polling stations is IEC Deputy Chairperson Terry Tselane. Mr. Tselane, thank you so much for joining me. So we saw a lot of green on that map, but also dots of orange. What are the main reasons for the dots of orange? And take us through the process of getting the map to project green as we saw it earlier.
Well, there are various factors that could be attributing to this, but we would not be in a position to tell exactly what are the reasons at this stage, because we've got to try to keep in touch with our officials at that level to find out as to whether there are problems. Are they related to our logistics? Are they related to other factors outside our capacity? So we are hopeful that around 10 o'clock all our stations will be functional and that we won't be having difficulties. But I think it's important also to indicate that one of the areas that we had indicated that we might have some difficulties in is the Eastern Cape, largely because of the rains. Hopefully we are able to contain the situation by 10 o'clock and ensure that all these stations have got access and that we are able to operate normally.
But what can you honestly do about the weather? I mean, just yesterday we had 2 reports of temporary structures that you use as polling stations tents that were blown over by the wind in KwaZulu-Natal, and there was one in Mpumalanga as well. Today we're talking rain in the Eastern Cape. What contingencies do you put in place for such an eventuality?
Well, we work very closely with law enforcement agencies, and the police have indicated to us that they will assist us in areas where we do not have access. They might use their chopper to be able to ferry materials from one area to the other. So we will assess the situation and see to what extent we can be able to embark on our plan B in some of those areas where we are having those kind of difficulties. If a tent is blown away by wind, we've got to put in another structure again. We are not going to leave a station and say, unfortunately, it has been affected by natural factors and therefore election cannot take place. All areas will have elections, and elections will take place and will deliver those elections.
So the weather is one of the factors that you were worried about, and you ran us through that list yesterday. But the other factor you were worried about is the civil unrest and protest. After an hour after polling stations opened, what are the reports you are receiving from some of the hotspots you were watching?
We have not as yet received the reports indicating as to whether the pockets of instability and violence that we've experienced ahead of these elections have affected our processes in any way today. As I said, our officials are still trying to get information from all those who are on the ground, and then we should be able to give an indication by 10 o'clock in terms of whether there are any difficulties or not difficulties.
Quick and final question then, Terry Tselane. A few elections ago, we were talking about difficulties with the so-called zip scanners. Talk to us about those kind of logistics, the scanners, but also the stationery that is needed, the ballot papers, everything in place, delivered at all 22,000 polling stations?
Absolutely. All our materials are now at our stations. Remember, we had to produce just under 74 million ballot papers. In some of the areas we had to produce 2, obviously, in the metropolitan councils, and in local councils 3 ballot papers per voter. All these elements are in place. Our security materials are in place, and everything has been delivered to our voting stations. We expect to be running any minute from now. We're supposed to be running, obviously, from 7 o'clock, and we expect every official now to be at our stations, making sure that the elections proceed. And we are confident that these elections will proceed smoothly, and our officials will run them with professionalism and integrity, and we will indeed have free and fair elections.
Right. Terry Tselane, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Much.
He is, of course, the Deputy Chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission, the body that is really behind this massive operation that involves about 22,000 sites across the country and some 220 personnel. A record-breaking election by many standards, Uveka, I mean, including the number of candidates that is taking part, but also, you know, some interesting trivia as well. The largest ballot paper produced for an election is, in this particular election, an A3 size ballot paper in Cape Town to accommodate the 37 political parties that are contesting that particular metro. So record-breaking on many levels this election.
Thanks very much, Thulasizwe Simelane, chatting there to IEC Deputy Chair, a man whose job you certainly don't want today.